Welcome to November, where the world of sports is insanely busy, there's chaos everywhere, and if you can't keep up, well, I don't blame you. But you've got the Cornfield Sports Pod to keep up. Basketball has finally begun, wrestling begins tonight for the Cyclones, football is in full swing with the Cyclones still on pace for a historic season, and volleyball is happening. For a sports fan, it's like being a kid in a candy store with a bottomless piggy bank, and today is Friday, November 8th. I'm Matt Menson. I might need a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. And welcome to the Cornfield Sports Pod. First off, let's get right into football here. I don't have Blake with me today. Last weekend, undefeated season broke. That's the way things shook down. Home loss against Texas Tech. It seems like they just have our number here in recent years. 23-22, close one, nail biter, came down to the end. Heartbreaker of a game, and it was not a game that we should have lost. I don't think it's a game that, I don't know if I would say it's a game that Texas Tech deserved to win, but it's a game that we deserved to lose. We shouldn't have deserved to lose it, but we did. But that's because we shot ourselves in the foot. A lot. We made a lot of bad mistakes that ended up costing the game. It wasn't that Texas Tech played phenomenally well. They didn't. They did not play phenomenally well. We just happened to also play pretty poorly. We had a lot of poor decision making and poor discipline that hurt us time and again. And a lot of it goes back to the play calling from up in the booth. I'm not really sure what Taylor Mauser was thinking at some of the points during this game. First of all, going for two at the end of the game was not actually one of these mistakes, though. We would not have fared better had we kicked the extra point in this because Tech also failed a 2-point conversion at the end of the game. And had we kicked the extra point, Texas Tech, instead of going for two, would have just kicked the extra point. They would have been a point ahead anyway. So then it would have just been 24-23 instead of 23-22. So that didn't make a huge difference. But let me get into some of the stuff here that did make a difference because there's a lot. First of all, that second drive of the game, attempting a pass play on 4th and 2, instead of running the ball, this is exactly the kind of situation where you need to go power, you need to stack the line, and you just need to barrel through, get your quarterback under center, get Rocco under center, and have him hand off to Hansen or to Jackson. Get a fullback in there between them as a lead blocker, and just barrel through. Are you going to get explosive plays out of that? No, but you don't need an explosive play in that situation. What you need in that situation is to get just enough yards for the first down, and we made a much riskier play call here that didn't really serve the purpose that was required. A pass play there just wasn't necessary. Or what we really should have done, instead of going for it at all, was just take the points. We were easily in field goal position. There was no need at all to go for it there, especially early in the game. You don't have the incentive structure to risk it like that. You don't have the need to do that. And had we kicked that field goal and made it early on, this becomes a very different game, especially at the end. The way things shake out in the fourth quarter become wildly different if we attempt a field goal here and make it. So you can't say it's raw points that we would have won the game had we kicked a field goal here. That still depends on whether or not we make it. But it absolutely radically changes the rest of the game, and we may have won it had we kicked a field goal here. Can't say that definitively. But we can't definitively say that we would have lost either. I think it would be much more likely that we would have won. I mean, it was a 1-point game. An additional 3 points early on absolutely makes it more likely that we would have won. Granted, any change makes it more likely that we would have won because we lost. But aside from that, twice, Jared Hufford called downfield, ineligible man downfield violations. He got the flag thrown on him. It's known to happen on RPOs, but twice on the same guy in the same game is awful. It's really, really bad. And that's a matter of poor discipline. Just running downfield on an RPO when you know that the pass might happen. I don't understand why the blocking scheme for an RPO like that is not more similar to a draw where you actually are in a pass block type of a situation. There really wasn't a whole lot of good reason for the blocking scheme to be laid out in the way it was to begin with. And then obviously it ended up with Hufford 5 yards downfield twice. And that's the way those RPOs have been going for us. This has been a pattern all year, and it really needs to get fixed. Discipline on the offensive line. The first of those calls, it wiped out a first down that Iowa State never got back, and we had to punt. And then the second one wiped out a 20-yard completion to Jalen Knoll. We were eventually able to get back and get another first down, but it killed our momentum, and had that 20-yard completion happened, the play calling from there out for the rest of the drive, again, it becomes different. So instead of settling for less, maybe we would have gotten touchdown on that drive. That changes everything. Not saying that it would have happened, but it very well could have. And aside from that, the most repeated issue over and over and over again, and it's a pattern across every single game, and the more it occurs, the closer the game is, and the worse we do. We are way too predictable on first down. Way too predictable on first down. It's not even close. We run the ball on first down up the middle too much. It's the same thing almost every time. And the only time that we really pass the ball on first down seems to be under abnormal circumstances. It's when we get ourselves into a first and longer than 10 because there was a false start penalty or a hold or something like that, or when it's the 2-minute drill, or when Mauser feels like jumping out to a hot start on the very first play of the game before he changes his mind 3 plays later, or 1 play later, because that first play actually tends to be successful. And then after that, we don't call a pass on first down until the 3-minute mark in the second quarter. I don't know what we're doing here. It is a miracle that other teams are not putting 8 men in the box against us on first down. I don't know why they aren't. Because they would get a stop every time. There's no excuse. We have to be more willing to put the ball in the air on first down. Especially with as weak of an offensive line as we have, we cannot rely on this establish the ground game nonsense when we can't. We can't establish the ground game when we're that predictable with the ground game. You have to have some level of unpredictability with it. And if you are willing to use the pass and the run, both on first down, what does that do? It opens up play action. And we need to be able to more effectively utilize play action in order to keep defenses honest. This was an issue against Texas Tech. It was an issue against UCF prior to Texas Tech. There's no excuse. There really is no excuse. We need to not play into other teams' defenses' hands on first down. And that is what we have been doing. And an additional run call that was just atrocious. And this is beyond just handing it to the back up the middle. 3rd and 10, fourth quarter, late in the game. You need a touchdown here. We called QB power. That's the kind of... there's no universe where that's the right call. There just isn't one. Like, I don't care if by accident you happen to call that and still be successful. It was still the wrong call. I don't care if Kyler Murray is your quarterback and you got the best offensive line on the planet. You still have to go in the air there. And, of course, this play call resulted in the missed Kyle Conradi field goal. If you make an appropriate play call there, Rocco Becht is a good quarterback. You got to trust him. Let him get the ball past that first down marker. Let him throw the ball. Let him do what he does. Let him do what he is good at. And instead we call the QB power, which is not something we've been able to successfully do the last 4 years. That just hasn't... I don't understand why we even have it in the playbook. We've never run it correctly once. We don't even call it at the correct times. Again, we're calling it on 3rd and 10. What are we doing? That is not when you would call that play. You call that on 2nd and 7 or 2nd and 6 when the defense has no idea what you're going to run. Because a pass or a run is a perfectly viable option. So I'm not really sure what Mauser thought he was doing there, but I mean, in hindsight for him, he should realize that it was a bad decision because everybody else knew it was a bad decision beforehand and still knows it was a bad decision after the fact. So hopefully we're not seeing nonsense like that again. Yeah, I'm not even going to pretend to know what was going through Mauser's head on the last play of the game either. That was even worse of a play call. We threw the ball the wrong direction multiple times. We should have just heaved for the end zone. We should have just Hail Married it. That was what would have made sense in that play. Instead, we run a slant route, and instead of even trying to run the ball downfield, catches the ball, immediately throws it back to another guy, immediately throws it back to another guy. Like we're playing hot potato, and by the time we're done goofing off, the ball's out of bounds at our own 9-yard line, and we've lost 17 yards. There was no point to that last play at all. Unless the intention was to get a safety, in which case we also failed. It was ugly. I don't know who drew that play up. I mean, it looked like it was probably designed based on the scribbles of some 2-year-old with a coloring book who can't stay in between the lines. And Mauser just saw the scribbles and went, you know what? That's our play. That's our play right there. That's what we're going to do. So that's what happened. That's how that game went. And all of that, all of those horrific mistakes was just barely enough for Texas Tech to squeak by for a 1-point win. And they're one of the better teams in the Big 12. Iowa State is still a better team than Texas Tech. When we're not shooting ourselves in the foot, we are a better team. We are a more talented team. And if we could get out of our own way, we would win that game. Because it wasn't Texas Tech that stopped us from losing. It wasn't Texas Tech that stopped us from winning. It was us that stopped ourselves from winning. We clutched defeat from the jaws of victory in this game. That is what happened. And I got to give credit to the defense because they did shut down the main goal of Texas Tech for 3 quarters of the game. They shut down Taj Brooks for the first 3 quarters of the game. That's not an easy thing to do. Now, he did end up finishing the game with 122 yards, and a substantial portion of that, it had to be almost half of it, came in the fourth quarter when all of a sudden we just stopped being able to shut him down. But, yeah, we had been successful at stopping the run. And then we stopped. We let him spring off for 2 14-yard carries in the same drive. And that ended up being a quarter of his, running yards on the entire game. Throw in, some more chunk yardage plays, a couple 9-yard runs in there. And all of a sudden, over the course of 2 drives in the fourth quarter, Taj Brooks is absolutely eating our defense alive. So I don't know if our defense just ran out of gas or what happened there. But We can't afford to do that, especially when we got Texas Tech in crunch time and they're down. They shouldn't feel comfortable running the ball at all. So that shows how confident that they are that our defense was going to collapse, and they were right. By running the ball and doing so successfully repeatedly in crunch time when they needed to save time. Not a good look for us. On the other side of the ball, Abu Sama finally played decent. He was actually our best runner and not Hansen or Jackson for a while. Even though Sama's been the starter, he hasn't been our best running back for a while. He still hasn't eclipsed 100 yards, but he did run significantly better than Hansen or Jackson in this game. His 5.7 yards a carry were actually better than Taj Brooks's 4.9. Now, as a team, we only averaged 3.5 yards per carry. Not a good look. It was not a good look. Hansen and Jackson got absolutely nothing done. Now, a lot of that was because of the junk play calling that I was mentioning earlier, where they were getting handoffs up the middle on first down every single time, and when it was first down, Texas Tech knew exactly what was coming. They could send 7 guys right at the middle of the line of scrimmage and stuff them for 1 yard. So we need to turn that around. We need to be more aggressive on the play calls. We need to be more unpredictable. Maybe dig into the back pocket and unload a trick play or two on a first down. Throw the ball deep. We're not doing that a ton. Send Jalen Nolan a go route to just beat his guy. He can do it. He's fast. Let's see that happen for once. And let's do it against Kansas, who's not actually that good, and is a good time to try that kind of stuff out. This game has rebound written all over it tomorrow. I mean, we know who Kansas is this year. They play teams close for a while, and then they completely run out of gas in the fourth quarter and choke away their lead. That's what they do against everybody. That's what they do against their worst opponents. So imagine what they're going to do against the best opponent they've played all year. And then on top of that, Arrowhead actually plays a unique advantage for Iowa State because Iowa State travels so well to Arrowhead. In fact, Kansas actually artificially increased the ticket prices for this individual game to try to keep Iowa State fans out because we travel so well. And had they not done that, and we might end up still doing it anyway, we might end up with a home field advantage in what is technically considered a home game for them, even though it's at a neutral site. And the only reason that's happening, if you're not aware, David Booth Stadium is currently under renovation. Kansas can't play there right now, so they're playing in Kansas City at Arrowhead Stadium. But Iowa State, if you pay any attention to the Big 12 basketball tournaments, we travel very, very well to Kansas City. So we should not have any issues with a rowdy crowd down there. I know there are plenty of folks who are students at Iowa State that are planning on going down to that game. We will have a crowd down there. Maybe not as big as we would like to, but we'll be there. And with any luck, there's still a chance we might outnumber the Kansas fans at that game. That's not outside the window of possibility. But we need to take advantage of this game here. We need to take advantage of a chance to rebound, and we need to, we need to take advantage of the situation as it is, with us still being on a historic start. But we also need to remember now that if we want to hit our goals, there is no margin of error anymore. We need to be on point. That's going to be to hit a Big 12 championship. If we run the table, we should still be in. We're currently tied for second in the conference with Colorado, and we don't have a head-to-head with Colorado, so that could throw a wrench into things if they also run the table. That said, Kansas State also lost last weekend, and we do have a head-to-head against K-State, which means they are still behind us, and we can put them further behind us. K-State is a long ways off from controlling their own destiny right now. But we need to win out, probably, in order to get to the Big 12 championship. And in order to make it to the college football playoff, we almost certainly need to win out, at least to that point. The the committee placed Iowa State at 17th in the rankings. BYU is the only Big 12 team in the playoff field. I mean, they're undefeated. They better be in the Big 12 or in the college football playoff field at this point. But we need to win out to get in because the committee's not showing a ton of respect to the Big 12 right now. And we might potentially need to claim that auto bid in order to get in as well. Because the selection committee might not like a 2-loss Big 12 runner-up. They might not want to put that team in. We don't know if that's going to happen. So that's the situation as it stands right now for the Cyclones. We need to beat Kansas, and then we need to beat everybody else. FanDuel has the line for this game at Iowa State -2.5. The over-under is at 51.5. I got Iowa State -2.5 over 51.5. With a final score of Iowa State 35, Kansas 27. I think this plays out as one of those games that Kansas makes a run on us late. I think maybe we're up, 28, 24, 28, 21, something like that. Kansas gets a field goal or two to make it close at 28, 27. Then we get a touchdown to ice it. That's pretty much the way everybody plays against Kansas. That's what Kansas allows teams to do. That's why Kansas keeps losing their games in close fashion, regardless of how difficult the opponent is. They play to the I shouldn't say they play to the level of their opponent. They play almost to the level of their opponent. So we're in a situation where we can rebound with football. We're in a situation with volleyball as well that we can rebound. Before I can get to the rebounding part, well, a rebound right now would basically look like playing average, because this team is an absolute freefall. The volleyball team right now is at 5 consecutive losses, and some of them have not been pretty. Start with last Wednesday here. Last Friday. Lost at TCU. This was in 5 sets, 2 sets to 3. TCU took the first 2 sets. We took the next 2. We would have needed to reverse sweep them to take that win. And then we got absolutely obliterated in set 5. It was the final score of set 5 was closer than the 2 teams played. We got embarrassed by the TCU offense in set 5. We allowed 13 kills in a 15-point set on 1 error. They hit 522. So our defense was just atrocious. We didn't stop them at all. And we were pitiful in the attack in sets 1 and 2. Hitting 132 and an abysmal 0.030 in set 2, respectively. And we allowed 16 kills during set 1 for TCU. TCU played as the better team during 3 sets. We played as the better team during 2 sets. This wasn't like a close back and forth, either team could have won any set type of deal here. This was definitively inconsistent again from Iowa State. And I talk about this every week, I feel like. And I'm just beating a dead horse with it. But man, we got to get it together because I know we can do it. I know we have the ability to do it. We're just not doing it. We thought going into this game, Melanie Para for TCU was going to be the biggest issue because she's the best attacker in the Big 12. Turns out she actually was not the issue for the game. We game planned pretty well to shut her down. Jalen Gibson, on the other hand, had our number all night. 26 kills from Gibson was not on the scouting report. We did not expect that strong of an attack to be coming from Jalen Gibson. But she hit 490. We struggled mightily to defend against her. She only had 2 errors all night, and she was pretty much their only attacker who was really all that successful. She was the only one who hit above 300. Para only hit .074. We really did shut Para down. And then Evan Hendricks was the only other frog with more than 10 kills. And she hit 267. So Iowa State actually successfully planned pretty well for most of the team. And then as soon as the ball went Gibson's way, we completely forgot how to play defense. We didn't. We didn't play defense against Gibson. We weren't forcing her to hit it out of bounds. We weren't forcing her to hit it long. We weren't forcing her to hit it at defenders. She was hitting gaps. We were leaving gaps in the block. And she capitalized on it during every single set all night. And we never adjusted. That's the other thing, is that seems to be a problem for our team this year. Other teams tend to make adjustments to deal with points where we're successful, because most of the time it's we succeed in the early sets and then fade away late because of other teams' adjustments that we don't react to. This time around, that was not the case. This time around, it was they just had us beat. Jalen Gibson had us beat. And we were able to adjust somewhat during sets 3 and 4 and not maintain it in set 5. And then Wednesday night. This was not a pretty game at all. Swept at home by Houston. This one felt like the culmination of the whole season for Iowa State. Disappointing loss after disappointing loss after disappointing loss led to embarrassing loss. We allowed a 10-1 run to blow set 2. It's a set we definitely should have won. We led 21-15 in set 2. There's no excuse for losing a set when you have that kind of a lead. And then we proceeded to lose it 25-22. I mean, that's bad. That is really, really embarrassing. And that followed a choke in set 1, where the Cyclones gave up a 6-1 run just to lose that set. And then set 3 just wasn't even close. I mean, Houston carried all of their momentum over from set 2. And after giving up a 10-1 run to lose a set, it kind of felt like nobody on Iowa State's side, fan or player, really wanted to be there. I mean, the environment was totally deflated. The energy wasn't there. And if your energy's not there, you're not going to be active. You're not going to succeed. In that third set, we hit minus 0.118. 10 errors to 6 kills on 34 attacks. We scored more points for Houston than we did for ourselves in the last set. Talk about embarrassing. This was a ugly, ugly game for the Cyclones. And to be honest, we pretty much have to play better in the next one because, that's just regression to the mean. That's just the statistical likelihood is that we play better in our next game because it's hard to actually play as badly as we did against Houston. We hit less than 100 across the match against Houston. And I'd like to find a silver lining for you. I'd like to have something to point to. But I just don't have one. Aside from, regression to the mean for the next game, which is going to be against Colorado here. But we allowed 8 aces and only got 2. 6 of which came from one player. We allowed Annie Cook to get 6 kills. She had our number all night from the service line. And 8 aces in only 3 sets is a lot. That's just unacceptable. Our serve receive has been not good all season. Houston really capitalized on it. We got outblocked 13-4. We didn't win a single category in the box score. We did not have a single player on our roster reach double-digit kills. And the season is collapsing on us. It's a little bit of a rough time to be an Iowa State volleyball fan. When I was talking about like the kid in a candy store metaphor during the opening, Yeah, the volleyball right now for Iowa State, I don't get me wrong. I love the sport of volleyball. I love our team. I love Coach Christie, but watching Iowa State volleyball right now is kind of like trying to eat Whoppers. They're the candy that no one likes. They're just not good. It leaves a bad taste in your mouth. And that's what all of these bad losses on with volleyball is doing right now. It's just you watch the game and it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Now hopefully that's not going to happen here on Wednesday against Colorado here, because Colorado is a team that is doing just as bad, if not worse. And I think I will make a case here that they are in fact doing worse. They're 3-9 in the Big 12, which is a worse conference record. They're 10-14 overall. It's a better overall record. They're on a 6-game losing streak, which is worse than our 5-game losing streak. So something's got to give here. Someone's walking out of this one with the second worst losing streak in the conference. UCF is the worst one. UCF is real bad, like possibly an insult to the sport of volleyball bad. And UCF actually took Colorado 2-5 sets. Colorado is not good. They have won one set in their last 3 games. They've gotten swept 2 out of the last 3 times, and they only went 4 sets in their other one. Colorado ranks near the bottom of the Big 12 in nearly every major metric. They are actually at the bottom of the Big 12 in 5 major metrics. Here's what they are: points, opponent hit percentage, assists, kills, and digs. They're at the bottom in all of those. There's a major gap between teams here. So basically, they're bad at everything except service. So as bad as we're doing, this is a winnable game. It's a very winnable game. It just doesn't bear any semblance of being a good game. It's going to be, whoever makes more mistakes is going to lose, because we're going to watch a lot of mistakes in this game. It's not going to be pretty. But that one will be Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. on ESPN+. And if there's going to be a volleyball game to tune into for Iowa State this year, that might be the one, because that's probably one of our better chances of winning. Let's go to a better note, shall we? Let's talk women's basketball real quick. Win versus Chicago State on Monday. Win versus Indiana State last night. These were teams that were overmatched. We just had to go in and take care of business. And we kind of did that and then some in different ways in each game. Against Chicago State, this was the season opener, 30th straight season opening win, which is the longest streak in the NCAA, and it mirrors Bill Fennelly's tenure at Iowa State. He's been here for 30 years. So that streak actually started in Fennelly's first year as coach. And it was the dictionary definition of a cupcake game. ESPN probability had IOSU listed as a 99.9% favorite at the beginning of the game, and it never changed until the buzzer sounded in the fourth quarter and became 100%. The defense held Chicago State to a mere 3 points in the first quarter, and that 3 came on a buzzer-beating heave. Chicago State they're bad. They are real bad, and we backed way off of them after that first quarter. Then we, actually started allowing them to score. But yeah, we opened the game on a 29-0 run. And it highlighted just how well ISU shot over the course of the game too. We shot 43.5% from 3, 50.8% total. I mean, shooting 50.8% from the floor is always a good night. We dominated on the glass, 48 rebounds to their 36. And ultimately, that's the Cyclones doing what they're supposed to do as a top 10 team against one of the worst D1 teams in the country. Not a whole lot of lines to read between on this one. That's pretty much what it is. And then Indiana State, we also won. Now, obviously, there's no secret Indiana State's a better opponent than Chicago State, but they're still overmatched. The shooting in this game was not as good. We just our shooting motion just wasn't as good. It wasn't putting the ball in the bucket. But aside from that, the offense was still productive. Indiana State was actually winning after the first quarter, 16-14. And then after that, the Cyclones pulled away in the second quarter and only allowed 14 total points in the second half. Yeah, stop with that one again real quick. 14 total points in the second half. That's shutdown defense. That's late in the game. That's after you're tired. That's not swarming them early when you can sprint all over the floor because you're not gassed. No, in the third and fourth quarter, when you're tired and you're swarming them like that to only allow 14 total points. It was 8 points in the third quarter and a mere 6 points in the fourth quarter. This Cyclones defense is legit. It's hard to allow that few points even against bad teams. And now the Cyclones have already held opponents to single-digit scoring in 3 different quarters this year. Iowa State women's basketball has a legitimate defense. And it forced a lot of poor shots from Indiana State and from Chicago State. And they're going to be continuing that here Sunday, November 10th against Southern, Thursday, November 14th against St. Thomas. Men's basketball, they played on Monday night. They won against Mississippi Valley State, 83-44. It's gimme game season. That's the way it is for basketball right now. That's how the beginning of November is. It's that way for the women's. It's that way for the men's too. The men really don't have any real games until they play Auburn down at Maui. They shot excellent inside the arc. The 47.5 total shooting percentage is nothing to complain about here. The 3-point percentage was what knocked things down a bit. They were well over 50% from inside the arc. But they were only 5 for 21 from downtown. That needs some work. Granted, I think that as the season goes on, we get into routines with games, that shooting form is going to improve. We're just going to be shooting better. We've got shooters on this team. We know Lipsy can shoot. We know Momcilovic can shoot. We know Curtis Jones can shoot. We know Nate Heisey can shoot. We've got the guys on this team that can pull it off. I mean, even Keyshawn Gilbert has his good days from outside the arc. He's more of a slasher type and get to the bucket, and he's real efficient at doing that. But he has his days when he can just drain them from downtown too, like it's nothing. Monday wasn't that day, but all of those guys have those days, and it's if you're gonna have a day when none of those guys are on top of their game from outside the arc, might as well be against Mississippi Valley State, where it doesn't really matter. But inside the arc, I mean, Josh Jefferson, 4 for 5. Deshaun Jackson, 3 for 4. Taman Lipsy, 4 for 5. We were able to draw 19 fouls over the course of the game. This team's doing good stuff here inside the arc offensively. When we attack that paint, good things happen. The things were very good. Getting to the rim, we were efficient. Things are obviously going to get tougher when we play better opponents. What's it going to look like, down in Maui when we have to, deal with Janai Broom inside the paint? That's going to make things a little bit harder. But right now, the Cyclones are looking great in the interior. And the defense, they allowed very little room for shots. Mississippi Valley State shot only 1 for 12 from 3, and they from the floor total 37.3%, which is, that's pitiful. I get it, they're just a bad team. That's pretty pitiful. Iowa State forced 24 turnovers, blocked 6 shots, and had 16 steals. It was a good game for Iowa State. Good way to start the season. Basically a warm-up for the rest of the season. And the next couple of games will also be that way. And the next one of those games will be Monday, November 11th. It'll be against Kansas City. That'll be at 7 o'clock on ESPN+. And now, to tonight's event. Iowa State's wrestling season begins in Hilton Coliseum against Stanford at 7 p.m. Stanford begins the season as the 20th ranked dual team. To their starting lineup, they have to their projected starting lineup, they have 6 ranked wrestlers. At 125, 10th ranked Nico Provo. At 133, 20th ranked Tyler Knox. At 149, 10th ranked Jaden Abbas. At 165, 8th ranked Hunter Garvin. At 174, 21st ranked Lorenzo Norman. And at heavyweight, 13th ranked Nick Stemmen. ISU has only wrestled Stanford one time in the past. It was January 21st, 2005. We beat them inside Hilton Coliseum. Came with a comeback in the upper weights. But it's going to look a lot different this time. Completely different rosters. Again, that was almost 20 years ago. Iowa State's got a few true freshmen in the projected starting lineups tonight. At 125, we've got Adrian Meza. He's the number 54 overall recruit. We've got Kane Nachtgeboren. At 157, he's the number 63 overall recruit, and he's a local boy out of Linmar. And then at heavyweight, with Younger Bastida not being ready quite yet, we got Daniel Herrera, who is the number 90 overall recruit. I'm real excited to see what he can do. There's a lot of unknown factors right now with some of these new guys at Iowa State. They're not in the rankings. We're not really sure what to expect of them yet. I would imagine some of them sneak their way into the rankings, by midway into the season here. Meza is one that I've got my eye on for this. And then from the transfers as well, Aiden Riggins at 174. He transferred here from the team out east. He's another one that I'd have my eye on as a potential, could get himself ranked later in the year, assuming he holds his starting job and MJ Gaitan doesn't, work his way back into that starting spot. Evan Bachman, transfer from Utah Valley at 184. He is ranked at, I believe he's number 19. He was their only ranked wrestler at Utah Valley last year. He's a good wrestler. Good to have him, at a program that is going to be able to properly utilize him and, get some team awards with him. Instead of him having to do it all himself, better coaching here at Iowa State than he had at Utah Valley. He might be starting at ranked, in the high teens. I think with Kevin Dresser's program, I think he ends the season ranked better than what he was doing at Utah Valley. And then the transfer from Oklahoma State at 197 pounds, Christian Carroll, redshirt freshman, didn't really compete much at Oklahoma State, stepping up here and filling gaps. But notably not listed for tonight, we got Younger Bastida. He's healing from injury, which will also be keeping him from wrestling in the All-Star Classic later this month, which he was invited to. Cody Chittum, who is redshirting this season. Panero Johnson is not projected to be starting tonight. Casey Swiderski is not projected to be starting tonight. During wrestle-offs was the last time we saw him. He tech-followed Sam Rabovsky. Kyson Tarakina is not in the projected starting lineups. MJ Gaitan is not in the projected starting lineups. And then all of the above, with the exception of Casey Swiderski, did not even participate in the wrestle-offs. So there's a little bit of unknowns, a lot of names that the program is familiar with that are not going to be active tonight. But it'll be a chance to see some new faces against a ranked opponent. And it'll be at 7 p.m. It'll be on ESPN+. Of course, the better way to watch it is to be in Hilton Coliseum, seeing it in person. Watch Kevin Dresser's program. And you're going to get to watch Kevin Dresser's program for the next 5 years because his contract, or for the next 4 years, I guess, because he got a contract extended and it goes through June 30th of 2029. So Kevin Dresser, he's been improving this program and he's not going anywhere anytime soon. He's still going to be around. But unlike him, it's time for us to go here at the Cornfield Sports Pod. Follow the Cornfield Sports Pod on Twitter at CSportsPod. You can find Blake at BlakeAttack1846. You can find me at SFMattISU. Tap the follow button on Spotify, plus button on Apple. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Rumble. Hit the little bell for notifications. Of course, if Amazon, Castbox, and Good Pods are more your speed, you can find us there. And for Blake Peterson, I'm Matt Menson, and this has been the Cornfield Sports Pod.